Hello, Spartan fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Spartan Sideline Report here on NSUSpartans.com. I'm Mike Bello, the Assistant Sports Information Director, and I am joined today by baseball head coach Claudell Clark and junior outfielder Cameron Day. And Coach Clark, it was you were at home this weekend against Delaware State. It was a tough day on Saturday, but you guys bounced back on Sunday. Really, the bats really kind of exploded against a pitcher who had really kind of had your number in years before. So, even though you kind of had he struggled on Saturday, it was good to see you guys come out and really hit the ball well against a good pitcher on Sunday.
Like I was telling Cam and some of the other players, it was very nice to, come back and rebound Sunday and even Saturday were some games, especially the first one, that we could have won. So it really could have been a very easy 2 out of 3 situation. But Sunday was a very nice statement, scoring 14 runs and getting that number of hits versus a quality team.
And it seems like this is the time of the year when you want guys to, obviously you're in 50 games or so, however you are into the season. You want guys to really be hitting the ball well. They want them to be at their peak. And it seems like some of the players, I'm looking at like a Justin Lee who had a 4-for-6 game on Sunday. Mm-hmm. It seems like there's a few players that are really kind of maybe starting to hit their peak and starting to play their best baseball of the year.
Well, anytime, again, versus Delaware State, which is one of the better conference teams, anytime you have 4 hits in one day, some of your cleanup hitters or some of your middle of the lineup guys have good days, that means they're performing at the right time versus the teams who are at the highest level. And we continuously stress that, if you're going to call yourself an elite player or an impact player on a team, you have to show up when we play the opposing team's best. And, our guys certainly did that, for the course of the weekend and especially on Sunday.
Yeah, and, your pitching did pretty well, too. You kind of, obviously at this point in the year, you know what your rotation is. But is there anything that, guys like Chris Horn and Richie Salter, is there anything that you're kind of telling them as the year goes on, as their arms get a little tired, as they get more work in, pitching during the week as well, during games? Is there anything you kind of tell them, for this last stretch of the year, what they need to be working on, what kind of just little tips for those guys?
We just try to tell our pitchers, battle and keep us in the game. We don't want to get a situation with a thin pitching staff to where, a guy just can't go any further. If you give up a hit or something bad happens or you have a bad inning, just continue to battle through it for us, and you have no problem with us as coaches helping you to battle through it. But we need that 6 or 7 or 8 inning outing, so that we can, continue to span the number of innings that we need and give our hitters a chance to get to the plate and do what it is they need to do. So even in that first game, Chris Horn went deep into the game, held us there. It was 2-1 late, and easily had chances to win that one. So the pitching has kept us competitive and kept us in striking distance of getting some wins. And as you see on Sunday, even though they scored 6 or 7 runs, they kept it to the point where our guys continue to get to the plate, continue to have a chance to play with a lead and extend that lead.
And obviously this week you had a game against Winston-Salem State that was obviously canceled because of the rain. It's been a bad week already this week, but it's supposed to be nice this weekend when you're heading up to Coppin State. Mm-hmm. So last conference games of the year, it's 2 weeks between then and the tournament. We obviously got some non-conference games in between. But, last conference games of the year, you're going up to Coppin State, a team who is much improved from last year. They've already proven it when you played them this year already. So kind of what's going to be, I guess you could say, some of the keys to going up there and getting at least a sweep, if not 2 out of 3?
Well, we want to pitch effectively. We don't want to walk batters. We don't want to give them any extra swings, any extra at-bats, any extra base runners to kind of cause any trouble and to get them started. And as I was stressing to some of our hitters, and obviously our coaches who are doing a very good job are stressing to our guys on offense, try to put teams away early and try to make a statement early about how the tone of the game is going to run. And if you would do that, it would not give teams so much confidence and so much energy to try to come back on you or to play with you that you think that you may be better than. So we're trying to make a defensive stand, have a good starting pitching outing, and then also allow our hitters to, try to be hungry in the first part of the game to, put some runs on the board to establish the tone of the game and establish the tone of the day. We have a doubleheader on Saturday.
And we were talking about earlier about, players kind of, especially at the plate, mm-hmm. players hitting their stride late in the season and getting hot at the right time, because that's all it takes in the MEAC tournament, mm-hmm. the team that's hot at the right time. And right now we're here with Cameron Day, who was coming off an all-MEAC season last year. Mm-hmm. First team all-MEAC, was really one of the best players in the league. Came into this year, and Cam I'm sure, will be the first to admit that he kind of struggled a little bit. Wasn't hitting as well as we thought he would. But now all of a sudden he's kind of turning the corner. I think that 4-for-4 game against UMES really helped. Mm-hmm. And he's one of those players that's really starting to turn the corner and really turn it up at the right time of the year.
Well, definitely happy for him. Obviously, going into the season, putting some pressure on yourself. But we've had some hitters who have really flourished around him to kind of neutralize some of that pressure. And then he's also realized how some of the people have been pitching him and the way they've been going after him to try to eliminate them or him from hurting them over the course of a weekend. But he's been able to counteract that and also contribute on offense as well. So they really haven't been able to pitch around him due to the other guys. And a good number of people in the middle of our lineup have started to perform, including Cam. And it's really nice to see him having another good year and heading towards finishing this year on a good note.
Yeah, and we'll turn to you now, Cam. And obviously at the last year, your freshman year, you were stuck behind guys. We had a loaded team in 2011. You had Chris Joyce, you had Brandon Hairston, you had John Lynch, you had John Raspberry. So you're kind of waiting your turn behind all those guys, all MEAC caliber players. Last year, you really came into your own as a sophomore, and obviously people didn't know who you were. You hardly played your freshman year, so people didn't really know you at first. So coming into your junior year, what was, I guess, the key for you to realize that, hey, these guys, they know me after last year. These guys are going to pitch me different. I just can't go out like I did my sophomore year and expect to do the same thing. I'm going to have to make adjustments as well.
Yeah, like you said, like last year, I was able to just go out there and kind of surprise people. Who is this guy? And I come out there, bam, two, 3 hits easily. But this year, people know about me. People have done their homework or research about me, and they realize that I can't just go after this guy a certain type of way. They've pitched me very effectively, and I've just been working with my coach, Coach Lee, Coach Clark, and trying to prepare an approach and a mindset to consistently have a plan that I don't deviate from as I go through the game. I might have to stress 1 or 2 things as I'm feeling on that day, but going forward, I have a set plan now to deal with how these people are going to pitch me, because this is something new to me. I never had that. Like in high school, people weren't good enough to do that. Now in college, you're able to execute plans and stuff. So.
And was it a little bit of pressure coming off your all-MEAC caliber season last year? You're looking, coming into this year, you're basically, as far as the guys who are returning, obviously, new guys like Zach Marco and stuff, but as far as the guys that were returning, you were pretty much the focus of the offense for, the other team that got focus on is, okay, we got to stop Cameron Day. We got to get him out because, he is their best hitter. Obviously, like I said, we didn't know much about how the other hitters would come in. Was that a little bit maybe too much? Was that a little bit of pressure for you that's saying, hey, I've really got to help, that you feel like you had to carry the team? Or did you kind of come in a mentality of, what, other guys are going to hit, I don't need to worry about that?
Coming into this year, I saw that the guys around me, they were really good hitters, and I felt like they were going to be key contributors to us too. So I didn't have too much pressure, but also I still carry that mindset that I want to help this team win each and every time we go out and take the field. So if I don't score, drive in 1 or 2 runs or have at least 2 or 3 hard hit balls, I'm disappointed with myself, but I'm also not stressing it because I know I got Zach right in front of me in the middle of that order. And I know I got Kyle and Cody and a whole bunch of other guys that can really help and pick me up if I'm not having the greatest game.
And we were talking earlier with Coach Clark about, guys really starting to pick it up. Like Justin Lee had a good weekend this weekend. He raised his average numerous points from what it was early in the season. Kyle Voss, and there's a lot of new guys too, like Kyle Voss, a freshman. Mm-hmm. Some guys like Robert Rayum, Robert Barefoot, who've proven they can hit the ball at times. Even Andre Moore had a good game this weekend. Is it kind of tough when you have guys who are new into the program like that and they're still learning? Like you had your freshman year, you could learn for basically a year, sat behind those other guys and figured things out for the year, where these guys are they're getting pretty much tossed into the fire, having to hit right away as freshmen. Was this thing where now that you're a junior, you're more of a team captain? Was it kind of a thing like you kind of had to start taking some of these players under your wing, like showing them, okay, I've been in your shoes, this is what you need to do to be successful?
Yeah, like with a few of the younger guys, I talk to them all the time about how they take pitches. Like Kyle Voss, you mentioned. I say, Kyle, you can't take pitches. You can't be flinching and jumping around up there. And even sometimes with Jay Lee, you can't be dancing around. If they know you're not even taking the pitch and in a position to hit, then they know if they throw it over for a strike, then you're going to take it again. But if you stand there with a good base, even if you're not going to swing, they have you off balance, you look like you see the pitch well, then they might not double up on that pitch and might give you something to hit. So.
And coming into the year, everyone kind of knew Zach would be a hitter, and I think at this point in the year, you guys have proven to be a good 1-2 punch, one of the best 1-2 punches in the MEAC. I mean, is that something that you and him kind of talk about, that, we are you guys are the heart of the lineup, the 3-4, 4-5, wherever you guys are in the lineup, that I mean, obviously other players contribute as well, but you two are really kind of have turned out to be really the focus, the power hitters, the drive, the guys that are going to drive into runs for the team. I mean, you guys talk about that a little bit, kind of, I don't want to say it builds a friendship, but does it kind of build a bond that you guys are really those two hitters right in the middle of the lineup that could very well make or break how we hit?
Yeah, I mean, me and Zach definitely have that like little, it's more of a competition and connection where I'm going to pick you up if you mess up, and we'll ask, like, how many RBIs did you get this weekend, trying to see who did better and stuff like that, and always trying to, you want to be the best, not just in the MEAC, you want to be the best player on your team, so me and him always competing in that sense, and I think that competition does bring a special type of a connection and bond between teammates.
And you kind of hit on the point there that, it's kind of fun, we talk about this with other sports too, is who can outdo who, and obviously it's a fun competition. You don't want to make it too intense, but it's kind of fun to see. It's a way to drive each other. To make you go that much harder because you don't want to be out hit by Zach or someone else. You want to be the one that drives in those runs. So it's kind of like a way to boost your, I don't know how you would call it exactly, but give yourself an extra edge, an extra drive when you're out there on the field too.
Yeah, I mean, that friendly competition between me and him also, it helps the team because we're focusing on doing our job to the best of our ability, and that competition just propels us even more, So we're thinking, okay, I got to get these runs in, when we come up, or I got to get something started, or, have a good at bat. You would talk about all the time, you can't control the results, you can just put a good swing on it, hit the ball hard. But at the same time, you also want to have, that approach every time. You don't want to go up there and have one hard hit and then 2 weak hits, because then you don't drive in runs. You get the infield single, you didn't drive in runs, but you still got the hit,
And we'll turn back to you, Coach Clark. And, Cam said it earlier, coming off last year, no one really knew who he was, or going into last year, no one really knew who he was because he didn't play hardly at all his freshman year. Obviously coming into this year, people know who he is. They've done their scouting. So when you have guys like that, a guy that no one knows has a good year because no one knew him from the previous years, and all of a sudden going into the next year, what do you tell guys like that to kind of get them going at, hey, you can't just do what you did last year. You're going to have to make adjustments at the plate. You're going to have to keep making adjustments throughout your entire career.
Like Cam touched on, we try to give him an approach to take on a daily basis. Obviously, just because you have an approach doesn't mean it's going to be any easier, because the other team is trying to formulate an approach to get you out now that you're on their radar. But just trying to keep him, not on a roller coaster, just even keeled, and that once you do get a pitch to hit, you got to be ready to strike, and just be a little bit more mentally flexible to be ready to work with how the pitchers are going to throw you. So if you have a fastball guy, then you have to be in that frame of mind. You have an off-speed guy, you have to be in that frame of mind. So he has to become a smarter hitter and one who can make more adjustments on the fly. But that does not mean he cannot perform at the same level. He just has to be willing to change his approach as the situation calls for.
And people that don't really know baseball don't understand how much of the game is mental, how much of that mental battle between pitchers and hitters. And obviously as a former pitcher here at NSU, you know all too well, you face guys that got you the first time and you figured out, okay, what do I need to do to get them the second time? That there's so much of baseball that's just that mental game, that chess battle between pitchers and hitters, not just in an at-bat, but in a game, in a series, and throughout the years too.
Well, like I say, again, it's about tailoring your approach to what the other team is doing. And when you're formulating a roster and when you're trying to empower your players, you want to empower them so much or have a roster that's so deep to where you can constantly combat what the other team is trying to do to you. So they bring in a lefty, they start throwing curveballs, they make a defensive change, whatever it may be. You want to have enough players on your roster and have the players that you have in the lineup prepared mentally enough to adjust to whatever it is that they throw at them, whatever comes out of the bullpen, whatever changes they make, you want to be able to counteract that. And this year, especially as the year has gone on, we've been able to do a lot of good things with our players, such as Cam, and then making lineup changes as the game goes on to counteract what the other team is trying to do. And that really has put us in some good situations. Hopefully we can continue to do that throughout the tournament, because we are starting to find out we have a lot of value in some of the players in our roster who have not played as much, but they are starting to emerge and starting to show that they can help us when needed.
And like I said, this is the last weekend for conference play. You're going up to Coppin State. What's going to be a couple of the keys for coming out with wins against Coppin State this weekend?
Well, like I said, they have counteracted things with trying to throw two lefties up at us on a Saturday because we have a lot of lefties in our lineup. So just making sure that our lefties not overthink it, and then they're ready for what it is they have to be, that they're going to see from the mound. As we talked about earlier, playing good defense out of the gate, getting a good start from our pitchers out of the gate, and really focus on our hitters to say, don't wait for the second or third or fourth at bat of the game. Make it count the first time through, and make them know this is the tone of the type game that you're going to have to throw. Every time you come through the heart of our lineup, you are going to get touched, and it's going to be very difficult to navigate your way through that. And if you set that tone, that puts a certain puts a pitcher in a certain mind state going through that, and it kind of just sets the tone for the course of the day in a doubleheader. So just trying to get off to a great start, trying to minimize the errors, minimize the walks, and just play clean baseball there. Again, they've much improved, but we can play a clean game and not hurt ourselves. We feel like we have the offensive, defensive, and pitching personnel to do what we need to do again this weekend.
And it does seem like from the beginning of the year that you guys are starting to really play a lot more cleaner defense. And people always talk about when it's cold outside, defense is always going to struggle,
right.
Like how cold it was this spring. But when the weather warms up, it's easier for players to field the ball. The airs drop basically when the weather warms. So do you guys feel like that you're, especially from some of those early season struggles that you had, that you're really starting to turn the corner on the defense, and the defense isn't going to be a liability for you as the season moves to the end?
I think that even still this year, and we talked about 2011, even this year, we're still breaking in players who are learning to play every day. Guys, even on the sophomore level, you still have some bumps and bruises at Division I level. It's not you just play your freshman year and it's all downhill from there. So we're still breaking in at some key positions, catcher, shortstop, some outfield positions. We're still breaking in young players. Even Cam had to have an adjustment from the sophomore to the junior year on how he was going to get pitched. So we're still breaking in as a team. And, even from a coaching standpoint, this is Coach Lee's first full year with some position players that he's responsible for. So we have a lot of pieces coming together, but they seem to be coming together at the right time. And, we had a kind of a rough start and a tough start, but I told the players I'm not concerned with that. It's about how we're playing as a team, how we're coming together, how we're growing each week, and then ultimately how you play when the tournament gets here. So that's what we seem to be most excited about.
Well, Coach Clark and Cam, we thank you for stopping by NSU. You guys are, like I said, at Coppin State this weekend, and then you're home next Wednesday. You play home against Longwood. And obviously, the next weekend you got 2 games against Old Dominion and then Savannah State. And we'll obviously talk about that next week. So again, thank you guys for stopping by. The Spartans head to Coppin State, like you said, this weekend for the last MEAC games of the year. And NSU will be back home next Wednesday against Longwood at 5 p.m. at Marty L. Miller Field. We would like to thank the NSU Department of Video and Media Production for their help here today. And of course, we'd also like to again thank Coach Clark and Cam for stopping by. I'm Mike Bello. Until next time, thank you for watching the Spartan Sideline Report here on NSUSpartans.com.